My name is Alofa, and I am an event organizer on behalf of the Samaritan Counseling Center Hawaii, while Anissa, today's tech guru, is the event organizer here on behalf of NAMI Hawaii. Before we get started, please take a look at our disclaimers if you haven't already. This workshop is for educational purposes only and is not therapy or treatment advice. Please consult your physician or a qualified health provider if you have specific mental health concerns. Also, this is being live streamed on the NAMI Facebook page, and we're recording the workshop so we can upload it to the SCCH YouTube channel later. If you would prefer, you're welcome to change your name on Zoom to protect your privacy. We will be using breakout rooms today, but that portion of the webinar will not be recorded. Plus, you are welcome to ask questions in the chat, and we will try to get everything answered before the end of our time here today. And last but not least, please keep in mind that we want to create a safe, supportive space where people are free to share their stories and questions and receive understanding and compassion. Now that we've got through that, welcome to today's webinar, Creative Coping Writing Poetry, presented by NAMI Hawaii and Samaritan Counseling Center Hawaii. Samaritan Counseling Center Hawaii is a nonprofit organization that provides professional, accessible mental health counseling sensitive to the spiritual traditions of individuals, families, and communities in Hawaii, regardless of their ability to pay. We also participate in community outreach events like this one to provide mental health education, strengthen resilience, and help reduce the stigma of mental illness. On the other hand, we have NAMI Hawaii, which provides mental health programs and educational classes, such as NAMI's free support programs and free 8-week family-to-family program. If you'd like to learn more about what's offered at these organizations, visit namihawaii.org or SamaritanCounselingCenterHawaii.org. We'll have the links on screen at the end as well. And of course, we would not be here today without our wonderful guest speaker, Destiny Sharion. Destiny graduated from HPU in May 2019 with her bachelor's in social work, and again in May 2020 with her master's in social work, advanced standing. Throughout her master's program, she represented HPU and the Council on Social Work Education as a Master's and Minority Fellow. During her time at HPU, Destiny was the secretary for the Black Student Union and the president of the Social Work Club. She participated in HPU's first ever production of the Me Too monologues, where students utilized artistic expression to share stories of sexual assault, recovery, and resilience. Destiny is an accomplished spoken word artist and poet who believes in art as activism, delivering powerful testimony to the legislature on issues like police violence and the horrors of mass incarceration in spoken word form. Destiny was part of the slam team that represented Hawaii at the National Poetry Slam competition in both 2017 and 2018, and was the Hawaii representative for the 2018 Woman of the World Poetry Slam. Her poetry is mostly centered around healing, self-discovery, and revolution. And with that, I'll pass it over to Destiny.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm really excited to present this workshop to you today. I wanted to let you know, if you would like, you can have your cameras on. If you don't want to, you can keep them off, whatever makes you feel most comfortable. So I'm going to give you a general breakdown of what creative coping is, who it can help, and how we can go about it. So before I get into it, I just want to tell you guys a little bit about myself and my story. When I was about 20 years old, I was arrested for drinking and driving in Alaska, and I was sexually assaulted by the arresting officer. This was an extremely traumatic experience for me, and it was something I wasn't able to talk about for years. It wasn't until I started to write this story in a poetry format and share this story that I began to heal from this experience. So I am a prime example of how writing and telling our stories can really cultivate healing within yourself. So basically, from that, I have been inspired to show other people how to utilize writing and creative coping to help them process suppressed emotions and experiences, traumatic experiences. So I'll just jump right into it. If you have questions or comments, feel free to unmute yourself or type in the chat box, whatever works best for you. So basically, what is creative coping? I'm talking specific, creative coping is all kinds of things between poetry, dance, music, but I'm talking specifically about poetry today. And in poetry therapy, an important part of the healing process comes from the communication between the therapist and the client about how the chosen work bears on the individual's problems and needs. Another definition of poetry therapy is the use of poetry and other literature in a therapeutic experience to assist people with attaining their personal growth goals. Slide. So some of the major components of poetry therapy, they kind of divide it into 3 different categories. They talk about receptive and perceptive, expressive and creative, and symbolic or ceremonial. So I'm going to break down what each one of those is right now. So the receptive or perceptive aspect of poetry therapy, this is when a client reads a piece of poetry or story and kind of reflects on how that story connects to who they are or their issue that they're going through. The idea of this is to really validate the person's feelings and promote self-disclosure. It kind of helps to stimulate the connection between the counselor and the client. This can really help to promote and reflect responses by asking questions such as, how does this make you feel? What sticks out to you? And if you could, what would you change in this piece of poetry? So when you're reading the story or the poetry, the person can kind of rewrite it from their own perspective or take control from the author's perspective and recreate the ending, kind of giving them a sense of empowerment. Next slide. The other way, and this is my favorite way to incorporate poetry in a therapeutic or healing aspect, is the expressive and creative. So basically, this is where the client would write and create their own type of poetry or story, their own narrative, and then share that with the counselor. And the idea of this is to empower yourself to tell your story. My favorite type of expressive or creative poetry therapy is where we use poetic devices like sensory simile, and you can take the problem and identify different senses that help you connect to this issue, and it really helps you digest kind of how you're processing the problem or the issue that you're trying to work through. And we're going to do an exercise that centers around that aspect. Next slide. So the other one is symbolic or ceremonial. This is more of ritualistic. This is more of a ritualistic treatment. It's kind of talks about more when you're doing eulogies or family history, kind of prayers, storytelling that helps you to self-identify and connect back to culture, acceptance, and closure of whatever the traumatic event was or experiences that you're trying to work through. Next slide. So creative coping or poetry therapy can really help anyone, but some specific groups that it's really useful with are adolescents. Adolescents, senior citizens, or it's helpful in treatment groups as well. For adolescents, it really helps to cultivate self-esteem or self-worth, helps them to identify with who they are as a person as they're kind of growing and developing into their own little humans, small humans. It also helps to stimulate independence. And with senior citizens, writing poetry or poetry therapy is really helpful with life review and kind of evaluation as you're entering these new roles. It can also help cope with loss and death, role change, as well as physical well-being. In treatment groups, it's really helpful as a support mechanism through education, can help with growth, socialization, and really helps members deal with the emotional realities of their specific needs. So depending on the treatment group would depend on what aspect of poetry therapy that you would incorporate. Next slide. So we have 2 activities today, and I'm very, very excited to share them with you. The first activity that we're going to do is the 5 senses. So this is where you take usually in counseling or therapy, you have like a problem or a experience that you're trying to work through. So say something like nail biting or anger or anxiety. So you take this issue, and what you do is you connect your five senses to it. So you would say, so there's an example on the screen where I'm talking about anger. So you would say something like, my anger sounds like thunder. It feels like third-degree burns, tastes like bitter melon. It smells like rotting fruit. It looks like a black hole. My anger feels like sadness. So this is something I'm going to empower all of you to try to do. We're going to go into breakout. We're going to go into breakout rooms, and in the rooms, I hope that you all have a pen and paper with you. If not, grab them quickly. We're going to take maybe 5 to 7 minutes in this breakout room where I'm going to ask you all to attempt to create a piece of poetry where you identify something that you're working on within yourself, and then pick the five senses and write this type of poem. And then I'm going to encourage you all to share them in your breakout rooms. So I know that sometimes sharing your writing can be slightly intimidating, or maybe people are anxious about that, but I really would like to express the significance in your voice. Your voice is powerful, and the things you say out loud really help to stimulate healing, growth, and acceptance of your experience. So I'll pop into the breakout rooms if it will help. Is that okay with everyone? If you can unmute and tell me or give me a thumbs up if you're okay with kind of going into a breakout room and being vulnerable and opening up to the people in your group and sharing with them.
Yes.
Good. Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
So I'm gonna have them send you all into breakout rooms. We're gonna take let's see, how many people do we have? About 30. Let's give them 10. Let's give them 10 minutes in the breakout room, Anissa. And then we'll jump around and kind of check in with everyone and see how it's going. So
okay, they're not going to have this slide in the breakout room, just FYI. So I don't know if that matters.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
can
no
you
problem.
also just explain what we are doing in the breakout room, please?
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so let's take a step back. And since we're not going to be able to see the slide in the breakout room, I would encourage all of you to write now together. While you see the slide on the screen, take maybe 5 minutes to apply this information and create a piece of poetry. And for me, I'll try to explain it again. What I mean is, choose an issue or an area that you're working on within yourself. So maybe anxiety, depression, anger, and then brainstorm on how that connects to your five senses. This is an example here on the screen. And if you would like help or you have any more questions, feel free to let me know how I can explain it more thoroughly for you. But for right now, I'm going to turn off my camera and give you guys about 5 minutes to create this piece of poetry. And then I will check back in and see if everyone's done. We'll split into breakout rooms and share in your groups. I guess maybe if we're writing now and going into the breakout rooms after, we'll only need about maybe 5 minutes in the breakout rooms. Is that okay with everyone? Are there any more questions?
Question?
Yeah.
Question? Yes. Are you asking us to create one poem together or each individual poem?
No problem. Each individual. So every single person by yourself is going to write a poem. No problem. So pick your own. Yeah, no problem. So pick your own emotion or your own experience that you're trying to work through and create a piece of poetry by yourself. And then when we come together, when you go into the breakout rooms, you'll share that piece of poetry with each other. Is that more clear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect, no problem. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn off my screen and give you guys about 5 minutes to do this exercise. How was that? Does anyone want to share how that was, how that felt? Did it work out? Did you guys tell me? Somebody tell me something.
We are back. One. It was so lovely to share and hear about where people came from. And one young lady talked about a tsunami, so I gave it away. And I talked about snow. So in one of my lines. So yeah, she figured it has to be in the Northeast. Because obviously I'm in the Northeast of the US.
Yes. Awesome. So we do have another activity, but I'm wondering if anyone wants to share with the big group their piece that they shared in the smaller group. If you're willing to, please do so or let me know. If not, we can totally move on. I don't want to call anyone out or make anyone feel anxious or anything like that, but just wanted to see if anyone was interested in sharing with all of us what they came up with.
I'll go.
Okay.
Okay. The way I constantly judge sounds like lumberjack sawing. It looks like an out of control fire. It tastes like wet cement. It looks like a deep, dark bat cave, and my constant judging feels like a cruise ship anchor around my neck.
I love the visualization. I can see the cruise ship around the neck kind of being like almost pulling you down, sinking because of this heavy feeling of judgment.
Exactly.
Yeah. When you wrote that and when you were able to share it and say it out loud, did it give you a different understanding of your own feelings about your judgment?
It did. It kind of, I mean, I'm aware of it when I do it. I try not to do it as much as I have in the past, but it seems like a constant. But actually writing it down instead of observing it just sort of helped me see it in a slightly different way. So it's helpful in developing or acquiring greater self-knowledge. So yeah, I didn't expect that would happen. So that was great.
Perfect. Awesome. So this is a tool that everyone can use. I don't know if you're coming in as a person wanting to use this for themselves or a person who has a practice and wants to use these tools with their clients, but either way, this can be really helpful for personal reflection and to help you kind of help your client understand their own feelings about their own stuff. So it's really good for reflection and understanding of where we're at with our feelings. So if nobody else wants to share, does anybody else want to share with the larger group? Going once, going twice. Okay, no problem. So
oh no, Charles has his hand up. He had his hands up.
Sorry,
Charles.
I couldn't see him. Go, please, Charles, share, show us, tell us.
You're muted.
I got muted. I'm sorry. I said I don't want to stop the flow at all.
No, please share.
Splitting wood, splitting eardrums, anger feels prickly, digging in a roaring cat burning. Taste the groaning thunder, exploding within skin boundaries. Smells like sour milk, chicken pot pies, unfrozen, baked. It looks like my heart aflame, naming me head to toe. My anger goes away silently, slightly dazed, feels quietly lost again, growing among trees in the sacred ashen wood, back home again, sacrificed again for love's lost labor.
That's beautiful, Charles. Thank you so much for sharing. How did writing about your anger and incorporating your senses help you to identify with kind of the feelings that you have towards it?
As a child, I escaped a burning home, my family's own, and the next day walked through the ashes. And I have not ever concretely in words dealt with the smells before of that trauma, either the night before or the next morning walking through ashes that were still smoldering. And that was very helpful to the child memory, still struggling to not be traumatized by sudden, unexpected disaster.
Yeah, good.
It was
I'm glad.
very helpful, as
Good.
was my teammates, Anj and Oksana. They shared also beautiful sensory stuff and made me think about the sensory in their sharing. And I want to thank them.
Thank you all. Thank everyone. Thank you guys so much for being vulnerable and for really committing to the process. I think that you will see in time that being able to incorporate your senses into your emotions or feelings about a certain experience and then saying that out loud just provides a different type of reflection. So So thank you all for being vulnerable. Was there anyone else? And I'm sorry if I missed you. Unmute yourself and yell at me. Okay, so if no one else, what we're going to do is jump into the next activity. So I'll take the slide. Thank you so much, Anissa. So this activity is a little bit more, there's a few more steps. And if it is confusing, please let me know. Because it makes sense to me, but that doesn't always mean that it makes sense to everyone else. So pop your hand up or just unmute yourself and yell at me and tell me if it doesn't make any sense. So what we're going to do now is we're using the same type of poetry therapy, expressive creative, because this happens to be my favorite modality. I know that it can be helpful to also bring pieces and share, but for me, writing is really the power that I want to share with you all today. So we're going to create what's called a list poem. And the point of this is for gratitude. So oftentimes, if you're in session or if you're the client or you're working with a client, you might suggest that they make a gratitude list, right? When people are feeling anxious or depressed, sometimes writing down what you're grateful for really helps you to put the world into a better perspective. So this can also be used as a mantra. I like to do gratitude mantras in the morning because 9 to 5 isn't always my favorite grind. And so it just kind of reminds me, the things that I'm grateful for and why we're here, and to helps me to put things into perspective. So I hope this tool can be useful for you or your clients as well. So to do this, the writing prompt, the first thing that I'd like you to write on your piece of paper is, today and always, I express my infinite gratitude for. So that's the first step. The next step is that you're going to list 3 things that you are grateful for. In this example, I chose the universe, my mother, and fresh air. So first, write the prompt down on your paper. Today and always, I express my infinite gratitude for. The next step would be to list 3 things that you're grateful for. So sometimes saying what we're grateful for is good, but maybe we need to remind ourselves why we're grateful for these things. So the third step in this activity is going to be to list why you're grateful for those things. So in my example, I said, I'm grateful for the universe for always providing what I need. I'm grateful for my mother for never giving up on me. I'm grateful for fresh air for allowing me to breathe intentionally. So there's 3 steps so far. You guys can start doing this as I'm going through it if you'd like. The first step is to write down the prompt. Today and always, I express my infinite gratitude for. The next step is to write down 3 things that you're grateful for. The third step is to write down why you're grateful for these things. And then the last step is to say thank you to each thing individually. So in my example, I said, thank you, universe. Thank you, mom. Thank you, air. And at the end, you're going to put it all together into what will be a poem and kind of become a mantra, a morning mantra, if you will. Oh, thank you guys all for being vulnerable. I hope that was an empowering experience. I kind of jumped the gun a little bit and I forgot to switch the slide, if we can flip the slide, and show you what the poem looks like when it's all together. So you do the steps and then you put it into a poem format, if you will. And it just kind of looks something like this. And I'll share with you guys my example here really quickly. And then I'll ask anyone who wants to share to please let me know and be vulnerable and share with the group, because that's what it's really all about. So this is the list poem for gratitude, and mine goes like this. Today and always, I express my infinite gratitude for the universe, my mother, and fresh air. I'm grateful for the universe for always providing everything I need. I'm grateful for my mother for never giving up on me. I'm grateful for fresh air for allowing me to breathe intentionally. Thank you, universe. Thank you, mom. Thank you, air. Today and always, I'm infinitely grateful you are here. So you could just use this process as like a morning mantra or an evening mantra, any kind of whatever time of day you need, maybe when you're feeling anxious or kind of forgetting why you're here. I think it can be very empowering. Does anyone want to share kind of their experience with this process, or how it helped or made you feel to say it out loud?
For me, it just helped put in perspective things to focus on. I tend to focus on the negative. I call myself a pessimistic nihilist. So sometimes I forget there are good things to exist for. So I appreciate that.
Awesome. Whenever you need a reminder, just pull that poem out and say it like 3 times in the mirror.
I could go ahead and share mine.
Okay.
I actually forgot to put it in the poem format, so if it sounds sloppy, just roll with it. Know what I'm talking about?
Okay, we got it.
Yeah, all right. So today and always, I express my infinite gratitude for my people, sunny days, and music. I am grateful for my people for the love and support. I am grateful for the sunny days for giving me clarity. And I am grateful for music because it revitalizes me. Thank you to my people. Thank you, sunny days. And thank you, music. That's it.
That was great. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing with us and being vulnerable. I really appreciate that.
I felt I was listening to a song.
Mantras have a way of kind of almost sounding melodic. Excuse my dog in the background.
Very beautiful.
I could share mine if no one else will.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Today and always, I express my infinite gratitude for the spaces I get to create with other artists, the pace of the season in which I flow and travel with, the birds that chirp every day outside my window, the hot sun that provides vitamin D on my delicate, soft surfaces and my brown skin, help that invigorates my energy to sing with joy, walking through nature, books that open my cranial crack open like popping popcorn on the stove, light bulb moments of discovery when I reflect and pause to get to know myself through whispers of silence.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Good. I love that. I love how you took the prompt or the exercise and really went with it. You really committed yourself to the process and expanded on it by providing us additional sensories to understand what your gratitude is for. And I value that, and I really appreciate you being vulnerable and opening up and sharing with us. Someone's asking if you can read it one more time, actually.
Sure. Today and always, I express my infinite gratitude for the spaces I get to create with other artists, the pace of the season in which I flow and travel with, the birds that chirp every day outside my window, the hot sun that provides vitamin D on my delicate, soft surfaces and my brown skin, health that invigorates my energy to sing with joy, walking through nature, books that open my cranial crack open like popping popcorn on a stove, light bulb moments of discovery when I reflect and pause to get to know myself through whispers of silence.
Yes. I do too. I love the way that you took that and just ran with it. Do you write outside of this activity? This isn't your first time taking a pen to paper, I assume.
No.
You did a great job. Thank you so much again for sharing and being vulnerable. I really do appreciate that.
Thank you for dear precious walls, floors, and ceilings that protect me. Thank you that I'm warm when it's cold. Thank you that I'm cool when it's hot. And that I have fans, electricity, kitchen, food. I'm never left hungry or afraid. I'm safe from being out in the open. Because of all these blessings, dear God, I know you heard my prayers and you gave me safety and you gave me great doctors. You gave me a place to cry and someone who listened and understood. You gave me someone who was always caring for my mental and physical health. You gave me a reason to live. You gave me a commitment to live. You gave me a will to live when I had none for years.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. Was sharing that and writing that helpful in remembering kind of why we're here, what the greatness that you've been offered in this world? Was that empowering for you?
I don't know. I just know that that's what came, and it's nice to write it. Empowering, that's such a strange word.
Well, thank you very much for committing to the process and for being vulnerable and sharing with us. I really, really appreciate you.
So mine goes, today and always, I express my infinite gratitude for love, the ocean, and the moon. Love for always carrying me and giving me the space to exist. The ocean for cleansing me and allowing me rebirth. The moon for pulling my heart along with the tides and always being there to make my nights less lonely. Thank you, moon. Thank you, ocean. Thank you, love. Today and always, I'm infinitely grateful you are here.
That was so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Nasipo. How did that process make you feel when you were writing it and when you shared it with the group?
It was a release. It was kind of cathartic, and it was a bit nerve-wracking to share with everybody else.
I promise with time, it gets less nerve-wracking and becomes more soothing to say it out loud, even just in the mirror without a group of people around you. Thank you again for being vulnerable and for sharing with the group.
It was a. Thank you, everyone.
We have a few minutes left, Mindy, if you wanted to go ahead and share with us.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Thank you. A little technically challenged. I'm filled with gratitude for the empathy of friends, for the awe and grandeur of fresh fallen snow and magnificent sky at sunset. I'm grateful for the unconditional love of my grandparents. For I feel valued and worthy. I feel a sense of tranquility and stillness, which takes me out of my head. I feel adored, cherished for who I am as my authentic self. Thank you, empathy of friends. Thank you, fresh fallen snow and majestic sky at sunset. Thank you for the love of grandmas and grandpas. I'm so filled with exhilarating joy for all these blessings.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. How did the process sit with you? How did you feel after writing and sharing with everyone?
I do a lot of, I'm very grateful. I do a lot of gratitude lists and I do affirmations of gratitude and love, but sharing it is special because when you share it, it becomes a lot more alive and more real.
It does, right?
Than doing it to myself. So just, yeah. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. I did want to share with you guys my resources. So in the beginning, I had a slide that had a lot of information about poetry theory, bibliotherapy, and I really honestly got it from books. I have a stack of books that talks about how writing and storytelling is healing. So this is a list of some of the books that I use to put together this process. They will be sending out these slides via email to everyone who registered. So if you don't have time to write down the titles and authors right now, don't worry. This slideshow will be sent to your email. I want to say thank you, everybody, for being here, for participating, for staying engaged. It means a lot to me to see so many faces, to understand how the process has helped or maybe been a little bit intimidating, but also some empowering for some. If there's any questions, I'm here for another couple minutes if you guys want to talk story or ask anything or share with me. Otherwise, I hope this has been helpful, eye-opening, experience. And thank you so much for being here.
Yes, and thank you, Destiny Sharion, for doing this for us. Thank you all for joining us for Creative Coping. It's a great time today. I've just put a link in the chat for our survey. So please go ahead and click on that and fill out the survey now. It's not long and it'll help us make the next workshop better. And if you'd like to revisit or recommend this workshop to a friend who couldn't attend, you can find a playback of the live stream on NAMI Hawaii's Facebook page, or you'll be able to find it on Samaritan Counseling Center Hawaii's YouTube page in a week or two. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to email us or visit our websites, the links for which you can find on screen. And like Destiny said, we'll be here for another couple minutes. So if you guys have any questions, we're here.